My Ладно, my dear friends. This is the third week of my Writer's Challenge, and today we will talk about the fantasy. So this time my challenge was to write a story about robots but in the fantasy genre. First, let's figure out what the fantasy genre is. Let's take a look at the official definition.
Fantasy literature is literature set in an imaginary universe, often but not always without any locations, events, or people from the real world. Magic, the supernatural and magical creatures are common in many of these imaginary worlds. Fantasy literature may be directed at both children and adults. Examples include Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, the Harry Potter series, the Chronicles of Narnia, and The Hobbit. Symbolism often plays a significant role in fantasy literature, often through the use of archetypal figures inspired by earlier texts or folklore. Historical fantasy is a category of fantasy and genre of historical fiction that incorporates fantastic elements, such as magic, into a more realistic narrative. Mecha, also known as giant robot or simply robot, is a genre of anime and manga that feature mecha in battle. The genre is broken down into two subcategories: super robot, featuring supersized, implausible robots, and real robot, where robots are governed by realistic physics and technological limitations.
You know, most fantasy stories use a medieval setting. And I decided that I needed to do something different. So, after thinking a little, I decided to use the legends of Atlantis and Egyptian mythology as a folklore basis. So, let's check out my story.
Many thousands of years ago, the planet was young, and it was ruled by the Atlanteans. Atlantis was a highly developed civilization with great technologies, but above all, the Atlanteans were spiritually advanced.
Priests possessing incredible magical powers were held in great respect.
Magic helped them live in harmony with nature and, if necessary, protect Atlantis from external invasions. Then, one day, a terrible cataclysm occurred that destroyed the Atlantean civilization, and the island sank underwater. To this day, no one knows what happened, except for one brave girl. It was a sunny day, as always in the desert. People were leisurely going about their business, but from time to time they glanced with awe and fear at the shrine in one of the oases. This was the home of the gods, and no one dared to approach too closely.
On the outskirts of the city was a large school where local children were taught literacy and geometry, which significantly simplified their lives. This school was also founded by the gods, at least that's what the locals called them.
One day, they simply appeared near this village on a strange flying object. The surroundings were desert, and people barely survived. But a few months after the gods' arrival, the barren lands turned green and numerous oases appeared. Since then, the villagers began to worship the visitors as gods. These are the stories the local children told each other.
Despite their curiosity, no one dared to even approach the shrine to see the gods with their own eyes. Adults strictly forbade leaving the village.
However, among the children was one brave and very curious girl who was not frightened by the strange stories related to the oasis. On the contrary, they ignited more and more interest in her.
After finishing her lessons, Mia quietly slipped to the outskirts of the city, and without telling even her friends, headed to the forbidden oasis. Along the way, she saw a huge metal creature that resembled a human. This creature was carrying a massive stone block to a large construction site, where half of a strange stepped building was already visible. Later, she saw several more of these creatures. This sight greatly impressed the 10-year-old girl.
It was worth sneaking out of the village for this.
Soon, she entered rather dense thickets of palms and bushes. It was shady and fresh here, and there was also a beautiful view of the unfinished pyramid. Mia took out her water skin and took a couple of sips.
Well, it's almost finished. I need to find a source here and get some new fresh water. My friends will be so jealous when they find out I brought water from the forbidden oasis. Maybe it's even magical, who knows?
The girl smelled water and turned right. Literally 200 steps away was a beautiful lake with blooming lotuses. Mia had never seen anything more beautiful in her life. She, forgetting everything in the world, rushed to the water and scooped up a handful.
How tasty!
She filled her water skin and hung it on her belt. Suddenly, Mia heard a voice right in front of her.
You are very curious, aren't you?
The girl looked around but saw no one. The voice spoke again.
You want to know everything. That's commendable.
Finally, Mia realized where the voice was coming from. An ibis was sitting on a large mound in front of her. It was watching her intently with one eye, then the other. Mia smiled.
Hello, talking bird. How are you?
The bird jumped closer and replied.
If you solve a riddle, I will allow you to take the magical water you collected. Agreed? Everything is fair.
The girl covered her water skin with her hand and after thinking a bit, answered.
No problem. Go ahead and ask.
The ibis nodded its head in satisfaction.
Well then, listen. It resembles a human but is not made of flesh and blood. Moves like a human but has no mind or soul. Can you tell what it is?
Mia thought for a while and then jumped with joy.
I know what it is. I saw these things on the way here. They are made of some strange material. By the way, you are like them, although you look like a bird. But you know, I have interacted with animals a lot and can immediately tell that you look like a bird, but you aren't.
The ibis laughed loudly.
Very well, my master wants to speak to you personally.
The bird flew away, and from the side a light rustle was heard, and a tall man with pale, almost bluish skin appeared before Mia. He was dressed in a tunic and a beautiful cloak made of light silky material. His large emerald eyes looked intently at the girl.
Handsome! He must be some kind of god.
The stranger politely greeted her.
Greetings, smart girl. I thought the fear was the only thing driving people, but now I see that's not the case. My name is Thoth. I always seek wisdom. I like discovering the mysteries of this world, and I am immensely pleased when I find like-minded individuals. And what's your name?
Mia finally realized there was nothing to fear and stepped closer.
I'm Mia. I'm 10 years old. I also seek amazing things. I want to understand things that are hard to explain.
Thoth smiled broadly and offered the girl a comfortable seat on a large flat stone. He also sat down beside her.
This is my favorite spot. It offers a magnificent view of the entire valley.
The girl finally decided to ask what had been on her mind for a long time.
Can you tell me where you came from?
Thoth looked into the distance thoughtfully, and his eyes seemed to reflect sadness.
I will tell you if you become my apprentice. I've long been searching for a worthy apprentice here, but so far no one has shown interest. An interest is where the path to wisdom begins.
The girl agreed without hesitation, as she had long dreamed of finding someone who could answer all her questions.
I agree, tell me.
Thoth smiled.
I am from so far away. My family lived in the city of sages in Atlantis. My father was a priest and possessed great knowledge. Since childhood I have been seeking wisdom and reading many books. Among my generation I showed the greatest perseverance in studies.
I had an excellent master who taught me advanced magic skills.
By the end of my training, I could travel to other worlds and return safely. There are worlds where it's very easy to get lost. This once happened to my friend, but fortunately, I managed to find her and bring her back to our world. I was also very fond of constructing various devices like those you saw recently. These non-living organisms help with household chores and they are powered by energy. I worked a lot and created the greatest mechanical being that could handle an entire army, but I didn't know that I would have to test it in action very soon.
One night, an unusual meteor shower rained down from the sky.
My master was the first to notice the danger and informed the High Council.
I was allowed to use my invention, and I sent out scouts. The bird you already know is also a scout.
Thus I learned that it was not meteors that fell, but weapons aimed against us. These were mechanical devices like mine, but made for destruction.
Martians wanted to conquer the peoples living there and subjugate them. Mars was already barely suitable for life, and they decided to move to Earth. I unleashed my best creations against the invaders, and they fought for a long time without sparing themselves. My huge mechanical friend managed to defeat the invaders.
For a while, everything was calm, but the Martians found another way to conquer the Atlanteans. They managed to transfer their souls to Earth and took over the bodies of the less educated Atlanteans. Riots and chaos began. That's when I regretted that only a small handful of people had been introduced to the great knowledge. The destruction angered the forces sleeping beneath the Earth's surface, which maintained the balance, and the island sank underwater.
My master ordered us to urgently gather other students and escape on a ship. He gave me the coordinates of a place suitable for life, and since then, Thoth sighed deeply. We have lived here. Most of the Atlanteans relocated to Venus. That's the bright star you can see in the morning.
I was tasked with educating the humans.
The girl responded sympathetically.
I'm sorry that happened to you. That's awful!
Thoth looked at her and remarked jokingly.
Well, helping is not easy, but I try.
Mia smiled. After a while, she asked again.
Do wars happen because of the Martians?
Thoth nodded.
The less developed people are, the easier it is to control their minds.
The Atlantean squinted for a moment and asked the girl.
How would you solve the problem of war on Earth?
Mia smiled and replied.
It's very easy. If the problem isn't education, then boys and girls should be educated equally. Because while my mom teaches me to do housework, my brother throws stones at birds and fights with other boys. His energy should be directed into a peaceful course.
Thoth was impressed by her straightforward answer and sighed thoughtfully.
It sounds almost too simple.
Looking at the beautiful landscape ahead, Mia asked,
Why are you building such a huge house?
It's not just a house, little one. It's a place for healing. Being inside, the body regenerates and you can live forever. I'm not young anymore, so soon it will be time for a long meditation in this pyramid for restoration. But first, I hope to pass on my knowledge to you.
The girl listened to the story mesmerized. When Thoth finished, Mia enthusiastically announced,
I will do my best, teacher.
And now we move on to the second part of this video. So let's go. It's gothic or horror. This genre I never used before. The theme. And superpower. Horror story with superpowers. Namaria Millennium. And don't forget about the healthy food. See you next week.